Between the Lines. I'm Wendy Manis. I'm filling in with for Alan Beauchamp tonight. He is home resting his knee. As you know, he had knee surgery, so he'll be back with you next week. But we have a very exciting show tonight. I'm really excited about talking about it because I know it's been a hot topic lately. And it is going to be on human trafficking, and we're going to find out more about that. But I've got Brittany Thompson here, and she is an expert in that field. And so she'll be able to give us lots of information and kind of bust some of those myths that we hear and tell us exactly what we're up against. Welcome, Brittany.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
I've been sitting over here talking to her, and it's like we've known each other
forever.
Exactly,
it's
like we became friends very quickly, and so I'm happy to have you here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So tell them a little bit about yourself. How did you get here in East Tennessee? Or, well, I guess you grew up in East Tennessee, right?
I grew up here. I grew up in Jefferson County. So some people know about that, some people don't. But after graduating from Jefferson County, I actually moved to Hawaii for 3.5 years and went to University of Hawaii, and I was majoring in political science there. So it was great because I did most of my undergraduate political science at University of Hawaii. And I got to see a whole different way of life over there. And then I got to come back and finish at UT. So I got to see really both sides of everything.
So when you were living in Hawaii,
yeah,
that is
yes, I know
interesting.
that's a big
so
part.
So how did you? What made you decide to go to Hawaii to go to school?
So my husband was stationed there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
sense. My husband was in the military in the Navy.
Yes,
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
So we got sent over there, and honestly, it was such a great experience. I'm a homebody, and I really missed my family. So it was nice to be back home.
Yeah, but you had a beautiful view while you were there.
I did, yes, yes. A lot of those places that like you see on TV, it's like I got to live that. I got to be there. Really got to enjoy it.
I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, that's
really
fair.
Nice.
I met some really great people over there that I really miss. I'm hoping I can get back over there someday, but
maybe you will.
Yeah.
And so then you came back, you finished your schooling here in Tennessee at University of Tennessee. What made you studied political science?
Yes.
So how did you get into studying human trafficking?
Yeah, so big gap there. So my intention with political science was to do pre-law. So I took some like pre-law classes, like constitutional law, all of that in my undergrad, with the intention of going straight to law school at UT. And my uncle had actually recently graduated from UT Law, and he's, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years older than I am. And he said, you should get some life experience. It'll look really good on your application with your LSAT and all of that. So a friend of mine was like, hey, I work at a domestic violence agency. If you're interested, like, it'll give you courtroom experience. It'll be great for your application. So I started working in like Jefferson County, Cott County, Sevier County courts with domestic violence victims. And I noticed very quickly that it just wasn't. I didn't want to do that side of things. I wanted to do more of the social work aspect, because a lot of times being a prosecutor is just pushing paper and signing plea deals and all of these things, and I wanted to be way more involved and just help basically. So. I worked there several years, and then I moved to working, because all of these like survivor services, they overlap, and they're just, but I worked there for a while, and then I moved to the Sexual Assault Center of East Tennessee. And I worked there for about 8 years, and pretty much every capacity. I did education and outreach, and I did the sexual assault response team. I did advocacy. Lots of good stuff. And while I was there, I went back and actually got my master's in mental health counseling, because I was like really gung-ho that I was going to do therapy. And then I started doing it, and I was like, you know what? I think I miss other stuff. So actually got the opportunity to interview for this director's position back in the summertime and moved over to human trafficking.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's a lot of experience, though.
Is, yeah.
So can you tell them exactly who do you work for?
Yeah.
And what's the company's name?
So we're the Community Coalition Against Human Trafficking, but our direct services are called Grow Free Tennessee.
Okay. I'm just listening to you talk, and I'm like, wow, it takes a very special person to be able to like witness all of that. And I know my dad, I've talked a little bit about how he's in the funeral business, and it's kind of similar. Like, you have to have this special heart and know that you're here to help those people, but you can't take it home with you and live with that. And so I commend you for that. That's a hard job.
There's definitely been some times that I have taken it home with me, you know, and I have really struggled with some of the things that I've seen and I've heard. And there was a pretty dark point in my life where I had witnessed, it was a trial and it didn't go the way that we anticipated. And I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to step back for a little bit. But then I was just like, you know, I could be on the sidelines or I could be directly in it, like working to change policies and to, you know, fight for justice for, you know, these victims and these survivors. So.
Right. And so you came back, you did all of that, you brought your family back, and now you're raising your family here and trying to be an advocate and let people know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing. When Alan asked me, he was like, hey, can you do this show for me so I can stay home? I was like, absolutely. He was like, I thought that'd be right up your alley.
Yeah.
And it really is, because, you know, you hear so much about people being abducted here, and it's not always like, and I know we'll talk about this later, but it's not always a stranger.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of times it isn't.
And I just had this happen with a family member. And what happened was they had gone to court because I guess custody was changing. And the step-grandfather, not even related to the child, took her and was on the run. And thank goodness they found her. Yeah. But, I mean, he could have gone anywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, you never realize how close to home it hits until you know somebody it happens to. Yeah. And so I'm excited to get into talking about this and educating everybody on this. So we know the signs to look for, and we kind of know what happens. And so when you went into your career, did you ever think this is where you would end up?
I don't know. I mean, yes and no. I mean, honestly, I went in not really sure of what I wanted to do with my life, and then it just sort of made itself. So to be where I'm at now, you know, working with my direct service folks and working with a therapist and doing all of this and being able to provide the services that we provide, it's such an amazing agency. And, you know, work alongside people who have been in the field, you know, for most of their lives, and to see that experience and that expertise there. I mean, like I said, it's crazy to, you know, to be passionate, not to be passionate, but to take this stuff home with you and to have this career. But I would never choose anything else.
Right. And so where is Grow Free Tennessee? Okay, I thought I had it right, but I was like, is that right? Where are they located?
So we are part of the Tennessee Counter Trafficking Alliance, the TCTA, which basically what that is it splits Tennessee into 1, 2, 3. So we are the East region. So we cover from Bristol all the way to Chattanooga. So that entire, those 33 counties, that's us. And then there is Encora, who is Middle Tennessee, and they cover those counties. And then RestoreCorps, which is Memphis and that area. So we are hubbed in Knoxville, just because that's where we see a lot of our main survivors are there. But we serve every county. You know, we're always going to be there. We travel a lot. We call our care coordinators our road warriors, because they are constantly on the road. Traveling. And then we actually have a satellite office in Johnson City. So we've got a few staff members up there.
That is a huge area to cover.
Yeah, it is.
When he told me you were coming, I thought it was just like here in Knoxville.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize like it's basically all of Tennessee. And it's, wow. And so do you travel a lot with that?
So one of the programs that I have that I don't get to talk about a lot is in the Bledsoe County Correctional Complex. We actually have a program with them with trafficking survivors that are incarcerated. And it's a great program. We've had almost every person who, you know, qualifies sign up. But I travel to there and sort of work with my group facilitators and the warden and the ladies there. And then I travel to Johnson City to see our staff up there and visit them. It just depends, you know. We have a emergency shelter, so a lot of times I am sort of running back and forth from that.
Right. And so the ones that you work with that are incarcerated, they were trafficked. Mm-hmm. And so do you see a lot of people who are trafficked end up incarcerated?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, almost, I don't know what the exact statistic is, but it's like over 90%, because a lot of the sex trafficking, right? It's completely into that prostitution. So a lot of times, you know, you see someone standing on the corner and you think, oh, they're just out doing that for themselves. When a lot of times there's someone behind the scenes who is running it, who is taking a big cut of what's going on, who's posting them online or doing any of that. So a lot of times they're being picked up for prostitution. They're being picked up for drug charges. They're being picked up for potentially holding a weapon for their trafficker, right? Because their trafficker's forcing them to do that.
Right.
So they have this huge rap sheet of, you know, all of these charges when really it's like they were being forced to do it the entire time. So, you know, and especially if you've been victimized over and over and over, a lot of times these males, females, they self-medicate. So there is a lot of substance misuse. So, you know, that could potentially lead to some type of arrest and incarceration.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, working in the prison, you know, there's definitely a variety of charges. That's not something that we ask about. We would never judge. You know, if you're here, we want to talk to you. We want to provide that service.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to continue talking and get just a little bit deeper into this conversation, and we will be right back.
Daniel Forrester has been recognized as one of East Tennessee's leading attorneys for nearly 2 decades. Civil disputes, criminal defense, divorces, and juvenile custody cases are all part of an impressive resume. Daniel's legal experience also includes representing clients in local, state, and federal courts. A husband and a father, Daniel is a Rule 31 certified mediator who has represented hundreds of families in Chancery Court. Call Daniel Forrester Law Office at 865-457-7900 for a free consultation.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Fan Gear Barn is Oak Ridge's source for new and vintage sports fan gear from around the world of sports. Find your favorite team gear at Fan Gear Barn, located at 977 Oak Ridge Turnpike, across from the hospital. Open 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6 days a week. Closed on Sundays.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or Adult Protective Services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
When should you get tested for COVID-19? You have symptoms of COVID-19, such as runny nose, congestion, sore throat, fever, cough, shortness of breath, muscle pain, headache, chills, or loss of taste or smell. Current testing recommendations say everyone should get tested immediately if they have symptoms of COVID-19. If you have symptoms, be sure to follow recommendations about how long to stay home and away from others. For more information, visit our If You Are Sick or Test Positive webpage.
In East Tennessee, winter can be a wild ride of constantly changing weather and cold outdoor fun. Warm up with natural gas heat, hot water, cooking, and soft, comfy clothes. More affordable and reliable than electricity, natural gas makes homes cozy and more valuable. Whether you're a contractor or savvy homeowner, switch to natural gas for your primary energy source. Visit us online at orud.org or call today. Oak Ridge Utility District, your affordable energy source.
welcome back to Between the Lines. Thanks for tuning in with us. I'm Wendy Manis. I'm filling in for Alan Beauchamp tonight. He is home resting his knee. As you know, he had knee surgery, so he needs to take a little time off for that. But I do want to thank our sponsors, Daniel Forrester Law. Thank you so much for supporting us. And IB3 Global Solutions. We are very thankful for them. Fan Gear Barn. If you haven't been there, you should go check it out, especially if you love Tennessee, and get you some Tennessee gear, because it'll be football season before you know it. And then Oak Ridge Utility District. Thanks so much for supporting us. We are here, and we are talking about human trafficking, and we were just talking about that many human traffickers are incarcerated, and that was mind-blowing to me, because a lot of times you think about people who are in jail, and you're like, well, they got themselves there. And, you just told me that's not always the case. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's the path that they didn't choose.
Yeah, they didn't choose. Yeah.
That got them there. So how much human trafficking is going on in our area?
A lot. So one of the main things that when our executive director sort of worked on building up this agency 10 plus years ago, I'm going to say that to be safe, it was, it happens here. And that's still sort of one of our things. It happens here. It's not happening else. I mean, it is happening elsewhere, but it's like we need to focus on what's happening in our own neck of the woods. So, I mean, we see it in every demographic. Doesn't matter. We see it in youth. We see it in adults. I mean, we see it in every single county. Obviously, Knox County is going to be one of our biggest counties, but that's just due to the ease of service of being located there. But yeah, I mean, last year we had, I'm going to look at my page, 407 referrals. So wow. That's adults and kids, but that's one calendar year, and that's coming from our 33 counties.
Do you know how much is happening here in Anderson County?
Yes. So I have the statistics. Luckily, I wrote those down. So in 2022, we had 3 adults and we had 8 youth. Wow. Yeah, and we actually have, and I think one thing that we're getting much better, and it's like going to commissioners meetings and like talking and getting the word out, and just providing that outreach and awareness. The more people that know about our service and know that, we meet them where they are. So if that's coming to Anderson County as much as we can, we'll do it. It will just continue to grow our agency, and we'll continue to get referrals and, build all that. I will brag on the Oak Ridge Police Department. So we had a training with the TBI and law enforcement, I think it was last week, at the Family Justice Center. And I mean, maybe like 2 hours later, he was responding to a call at a hospital, and he called and said, hey, I know I just went through that training, and I think that this person that I'm with has been trafficked. Will you talk to her? So I was like so amazed. I was like, oh, this is great, because it's just like it's fresh on their brain, and it's something that's now going to like stick out to them every time they go. And it's just something that they can just keep an eye out for. So do law enforcement, do they have training in this, like in human trafficking? Do they know the signs to, like if something were to happen, do they know when someone's been trafficked? I can't speak to a lot of law enforcement agencies. I know this training that happened last time was like a voluntary training, Right. So a lot of agencies came. It was a lot of agencies from around the area, not just Anderson County. They came and they learned about it. But I definitely think that it's not something that's mandated. It's not something that's happening every single year. So one of the things that we're trying to do at our agency is just work with our TBI agents to get that message out as far as we can to each law enforcement agency, just so they're aware. Right. Because I mean, the signs and stuff like that doesn't necessarily mean that they're being trafficked, but it means that it's a good opportunity for a more in-depth conversation. Right. Right. And what is the typical age? I know you said adults and children. So is there
Is there a typical age that is being trafficked here in our East Tennessee area?
Yeah, so our biggest source of referrals are youth, and that is because of the amazing work that our agency, and specifically our Director of Youth Services, has done with the Department of Children's Services and Child Protective Services. So if there's any inkling in any type of report that CPS or DCS worker thinks there might be some exploitation, they're going to go ahead and refer it to us, and then we sort of take over from there and work alongside, all the other agencies involved. So a lot of it, it's starting at 12, 13, 14. The point where it sort of drops off is around 18, and it's not because it's not happening, because it absolutely is. It's just that 18 to 25 demographic is very hard to get that outreach, get that awareness, and get them to come in for services. And then it sort of picks back up after that. We see all ages, unfortunately.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's kind of scary when you think about it. I know I was talking to you about how you see on Facebook and it'll go viral sometimes about, I was followed around Target or I was followed around Walmart. And sometimes I would just kind of like chalk it off to being like, oh, that's just something people are sharing, until it happened to somebody I knew. And when she talked about going on Clinton Highway and she was walking around Target and the guy followed her inside, followed her and her daughters all around, and she didn't really know what to do. And so she found the policeman, and they walked her out to the car, and he still followed them to their car. And so are you seeing a lot of things like that happen in our area, to where people are being followed around stores?
Yeah. I will say a lot of times when we're talking directly about just sinister stuff like being followed and these vans sort of just showing up and trying to sort of kidnap or stuff like that, or marking your car or leaving a rose or doing stuff like that. A lot of times we have a lot of just social media has made this connection between those acts and human trafficking. When that's not necessarily what it is. A lot of times it is just a creep that might want to kidnap, or might want to, get that person and assault them, or might want to, just there's a ton of things that person might want to do. But a lot of times it's not trafficking as we see it in our area, which I would love to say, no, okay, I take that back. But I would like to say, if you watch your back and you don't go anywhere alone, and you make sure that, you've got, you're safe wherever you go, and that no creepy people are following you around, then you're good. You're never going to be trafficked. But the reality is that the trafficking especially that we see, is something that is taking place in an intimate relationship, where that manipulation and that exploitation is happening, or it's taking place in a family where mom, dad, grandma, whatever is the trafficker, due to the convenience of that and needing some type of drug. So I would like that. I would like that parallel to be there, where it's like, okay, if there's a rose on my car, I know someone's trying to traffic me, I ignore it and I move on with my life. But the sad thing is, especially with our kiddos, they're getting into these situations where they don't feel loved at home, or they're neglected, or they just don't feel accepted, and they're vulnerable because they're looking for someone else to accept them and love them. And it's so easy for someone who has exploited so many people in the past and knows exactly what to say to exploit that vulnerability and say, listen, I can give you that love. I can give you that family. I can give you everything that you need. And then I'm going to, give you all of these gifts and really give you this great life for a short period of time. And then I'm going to flip the switch and say, all right, now it's your turn. You've got to make a living for both of us.
So a lot of times it's not like what you hear, to where, maybe they're from another country and they're going to take you and you'll be sold in Mexico or, one of the South American countries. It's right here in your own house.
Yeah. And I mean, as Taken came out, that movie, and everybody sort of jumped on that bandwagon of, well, this is exactly what it is, and it's terrifying, and it could happen to anyone. It could happen to anyone at Walmart or whatever. I mean, it can happen to anyone, right? Because it's that manipulation and that vulnerability and exploiting that. But it's not the way that we think. It's a lot more in depth and connection based, and yeah, it's not good.
Yes, it doesn't sound like it. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about how social media plays a role in all of this, and we'll be right back.
Daniel Forrester has been recognized as one of East Tennessee's leading attorneys for nearly 2 decades. Civil disputes, criminal defense, divorces, and juvenile custody cases are all part of an impressive resume. Daniel's legal experience also includes representing clients in local, state, and federal courts. A husband and a father, Daniel is a Rule 31 certified mediator who has represented hundreds of families in Chancery Court. Call Daniel Forrester Law Office at 865-457-7900 for a free consultation.
We should never lose sight of our health. To keep moving forward, let's not forget everything we've learned. Limit the salty food options. Make your own daily exercise routine. And always receive regular checkups. More than anything, we have learned how important these small steps can make a big difference, so we can all continue to move forward together.
In East Tennessee, winter can be a wild ride of constantly changing weather and cold outdoor fun. Warm up with natural gas heat, hot water, cooking, and soft, comfy clothes. More affordable and reliable than electricity, natural gas makes homes cozy and more valuable. Whether you're a contractor or savvy homeowner, switch to natural gas for your primary energy source. Visit us online at orud.org or call today. Oak Ridge Utility District, your affordable energy source.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Fan Gear Barn is Oak Ridge's source for new and vintage sports fan gear from around the world of sports. Find your favorite team gear at Fan Gear Barn, located at 977 Oak Ridge Turnpike, across from the hospital. Open 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6 days a week. Closed on Sundays.
Welcome back to Between the Lines. I'm Wendy Manis, and I'm filling in for Alan Beauchamp. I want to thank all of our sponsors. Daniel Forrester Law, thanks so much for supporting us. IB3 Global Solutions, Fan Gear Barn, and Oak Ridge Utility District. We have been here with Brittany Thompson, and we are talking about human trafficking, and she is educating me and everybody else on things that we didn't know, and she's busting some myths, and I'm sure she has some more that she's going to bust. And we were just talking about how most people, it's like someone they know or it's an intimate partner that starts to traffic them. How does social media play a role in this? Because we hear things all the time, and people watch Dateline about, you know, somebody chatting with a younger girl. How does it play a role in all of this?
Yeah, so I mean, social media, actually, I had somebody ask me this question the other day. They're like, you know, does the internet help or hurt in terms of like finding these things? And it does, in that sense. You know, it's easy to, you know, internet crimes against children, they're able to really utilize that, but it also hurts in the sense that you can be whoever you want to be online, and so can the people that you're talking to. So I mean, you can be anonymous and you can be upfront about the things that you're looking for in life, or your vulnerabilities, or just things that are really important to you. And then that person, they could say they're your age or whatever, they live close to you or whatever, and then they turn out to be a completely different person, a 40-year-old man who's sitting on the other side of that and has exploited many of people before. So it's basically like I can be whoever I want. That other person can be that too. And when I am very vulnerable and I'm in that situation where I'm putting it all on the table, I mean, it's easy for someone to take it off and then take advantage.
And I was listening to a video today that was talking about, we think it's girls a lot, but a lot of times it's guys or gamers too. And they'll be on the other side and they'll think they're talking to somebody, like you said, and they'll start giving out information and become friends and then more. And that's a scary world that we live in, because you're right, you can be whoever you want to be on the internet.
And one thing that the director of youth services, her name is Lisa, she actually brought up the other day, we were talking about, it's always that topic of prevention. Like, when do we start? When do we start talking to kids about this? And it's like, you can do prevention all day, every day. But the thing is, if they go home to a family that doesn't love them, doesn't show them the attention that they need, and isn't meeting the needs of, that child or that individual, it's like the prevention doesn't even matter, because they're looking for something, that their family can't give them. And they're opening up to all of these, potential predators online.
And so the other person will gain their trust and get them to go off with them and then make them feel like they're their family.
Yeah.
Is that what it happens? And then it's like, sorry, now you owe me.
I mean, and there have been so many people that, you even mentioned the word trafficking. And they're like, no, I'm not being trafficked. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm in a relationship. I'm doing this for them. Or I'm doing this for us, right? We share the money, or we share the drugs, or whatever. So they, when you confront them with what it actually is and how they're being manipulated and exploited, it's a whole new reality to them, because they truly feel like this is my partner. This is the person I'm in love with. This is my boyfriend or my girlfriend or whoever. I really care a lot about this person. They would never do anything like that to me. And that's normally what it is they have built up, they've groomed them, they've gotten exactly what they want from them, and then they flipped it.
Right. And so what are some of the things they make them do, like when they're trafficked?
Well, a lot of what we see here now, there's absolutely labor trafficking happening, for sure. But a lot of the not clientele, but a lot of the survivors that we're seeing are, victims of sex trafficking. So a lot of that, like prostitution, and just sort of, and that's where, I could talk all day about it, but just the idea of like a pimp, and that sort of, like, you had asked me, about like a famous trafficker or whatever. But I keep thinking, I go back to the thought of like how pimps and just that idea and that concept, they are praised to like the highest thing. They have like Halloween costumes and they have songs. And I'm showing my age when I say like pimp juice, like all of those things, But it's like they're praised for what they're doing, and no one actually really sits back and says, okay, but what does that actually mean? And what is that doing to, the people in our community? So, yeah, they're trafficking girls, they're trafficking boys, they're trafficking adults, they're trafficking everyone that they can.
And they're making money off of every single one of them.
They're making a lot of money.
That is so interesting. When I was in LA, I just remember like seeing all these young kids around hoping to become actors or actresses, and that's another big trafficking. Like, and Alan's probably going to kill me, but the porn industry is a huge trafficking, and you hear about people getting into that industry, but most of the time they're like coerced to come in.
Yeah, I mean, it's once again like that exploitation, that vulnerability, and just being, and a lot of times that's what we see in labor trafficking. They're promised something and then it doesn't end up happening, or they're from a different country and they come here and they work, and then their documents are withheld from them. Like, oh, well, you still have to pay me this, or you still have to do this, or whatever. Right. It's just always someone holding that something over their head, right? So they're forcing them to do it. They're being fraudulent about it, like, oh, if you come over, I'll get you your documents, and then the documents never come. Or they're coercing them. They're in this, what, the survivor thinks to be a relationship, when really it's much more of a manipulation.
Right. And I think of Pretty Woman when you're sitting here talking about that, because, she's like working the streets and she does have her pimp there, and then her daughter's or her friend is like, don't make him mad. Yeah. And I guess that's real life for a lot of people. Like, you can't make them mad. You have to do what they say, or there are consequences.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are, they're going to get hurt.
Right.
Like, you know, and it's different with obviously with every single trafficker and all of that. But a lot of times after the nice person who is love bombing and spoiling them and grooming them, and it's then when you stop wanting to do it, then there are consequences. And a lot of times that turns physical.
Right. And you were talking about the labor trafficking. And that's not something you hear a whole lot about. So how does that work? Is it similar to the way sex trafficking works, or is it a little different? And what kind of jobs do they do?
A lot of times it is people from that come over from other countries looking for job opportunities. They're on some type of like work visa, and they normally have a sponsor, and it is, you know, sometimes that sponsor who is just being very fraudulent about what it actually is, what the job entails. They're making them work, you know, hours and hours on end, way more than they ever expected. They're forcing them to pay $800 to live in a house with like 18 other people. Very terrible work conditions, and you know that promise of, well, you know, I'll pay to extend your visa. Oh, well, you have to pay for it. Or I'll give you, you know, we'll try to get you legalized, and I'm not going to give you your documents. It's just stuff like that.
Right.
Basically, where they're isolated because they don't have family or anyone to talk to here. And the people that are surrounding them are also involved in that.
Interesting, because I was doing a little research too, because I was like, I got to know a little bit. But I was seeing like domestic workers and agricultural workers, a lot of them are trafficked. And I was like, how sad is that? Because, you know, I was trying to think, do I go to anybody's house and maybe like I meet somebody who may be from a foreign country and I just don't even think anything about it? And I guess that can be the case. Like, you don't even know when you're talking to someone who's being either trafficked for sex traffic or labor traffic.
Well, yeah, and like for them, it's been so ingrained in their head that if they were to tell or whatever, they would immediately go back to, you know, where they were. And you know, I guess it's not worth it for them, or they don't realize what's going on. I mean, and who would? If you're not really educated about this, then you would just think, oh, this is just the life. This is what it is here.
That's so crazy. That is just crazy to me. And so what do, when it's not a family member, what do traffickers look for when choosing a victim?
They look for those vulnerabilities. So obviously if there's already some type of drug use, then they're going to benefit from that because they know that they can sort of help them feed their habit for a little while and then start to use it against them. But a lot of times it's just, you know, someone who doesn't have any association with their family. They're sort of a loner. They're on their own. They're looking for some type of relationship, some type of family. They're just looking for something, and they're going to take that and they're going to exploit it.
How much do you see, we have the dating apps and stuff like that. Do you see that happening through those dating apps as well? Or
no, not really. I haven't seen that particularly. A lot of times with those dating apps, a lot of times it's sexual assault that you see with those, just because it's two strangers meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I was just curious because I know we had talked about the internet and social media, and then I'm just glad I don't have to use those dating apps because it is a scary world out there.
If I had to date in this day and age, just wouldn't do it.
I understand. Yeah. And so you hear a lot of people talk about the Super Bowl. Is that a big place? Because I know a lot of people will speak out against that, saying don't go to the Super Bowl or don't watch the Super Bowl because it's the highest trafficking time of the whole year. Do you find that to be true? Or
I mean, I think anywhere where there is a large amount of people that are not good people that like to exploit and take advantage or like to purchase sex. I think that, of course, there's absolutely a market for it.
Right.
So they're going to go to where the money is, and the money's going to be at these places that are very well attended. I mean, locally here, we have to worry about stuff like the Bristol Casino. So that's one agency business that we have been working with. We've actually trained their security staff as to like what to look out for, how to recognize it, how to respond. But yeah, like casinos are sort of notorious for that. You know, renting a room for a few hours and like having lots of traffic, lots of men in and out, lots of girls in and out, just sort of recognizing those things. But yeah, I mean, they're just going to go wherever that money is.
Right. Do you think that stuff happens at like our local sporting events, like a UT football game?
I mean, honestly, I haven't really thought about it, but I know that it's happening in hotels around us. Right. In our area, because we have, some of the survivors that we've worked with, they've came from those where they were doing a massage that turned into something, a lot more sinister or something like that, and they were being sort of worked through, their trafficker. Their trafficker was sort of setting them up on these dates online, and then it just sort of goes from there, and they're doing it out of local motels and hotels.
Wow. And you drive past it every day?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Well, we're going to take another break, and we'll be right back.
Daniel Forrester has been recognized as one of East Tennessee's leading attorneys for nearly 2 decades. Civil disputes, criminal defense, divorces, and juvenile custody cases are all part of an impressive resume. Daniel's legal experience also includes representing clients in local, state, and federal courts. A husband and a father, Daniel is a Rule 31 certified mediator who has represented hundreds of families in Chancery Court. Call Daniel Forrester Law Office at 865-457-7900 for a free consultation.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Fan Gear Barn is Oak Ridge's source for new and vintage sports fan gear from around the world of sports. Find your favorite team gear at Fan Gear Barn, located at 977 Oak Ridge Turnpike, across from the hospital. Open 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6 days a week. Closed on Sundays.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or Adult Protective Services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
When should you get tested for COVID-19? You have symptoms of COVID-19, such as runny nose, congestion, sore throat, fever, cough, shortness of breath, muscle pain, headache, chills, or loss of taste or smell. Current testing recommendations say everyone should get tested immediately if they have symptoms of COVID-19. If you have symptoms, be sure to follow recommendations about how long to stay home and away from others. For more information, visit our If You Are Sick or Test Positive webpage.
In East Tennessee, winter can be a wild ride of constantly changing weather and cold outdoor fun. Warm up with natural gas heat, hot water, cooking, and soft, comfy clothes. More affordable and reliable than electricity, natural gas makes homes cozy and more valuable. Whether you're a contractor or savvy homeowner, switch to natural gas for your primary energy source. Visit us online at orud.org or call today. Oak Ridge Utility District, your affordable energy source.
Welcome back. I'm Wendy Manis. I'm filling in for Alan Beauchamp. I want to thank all of our sponsors, Daniel Forrester Law, IB3 Global Solutions, Fan Gear Barn, and Oak Ridge Utility District. Thank you so much for sponsoring us. We have been having a great conversation tonight, and I found out so much about trafficking that I did not have a clue about, and hopefully to learn more and be aware in the future. But we're talking with Brittany Thompson, and she is with Grow Free Tennessee. And Brittany, tell us just a little bit about your company, how you can get involved in that if you need to or if you want to. And because you're a newer nonprofit, correct?
Yes, we are new, but we have been growing nonstop, which is good and bad when you think about sort of what we do. But we have a lot of services that people probably have no idea about, and I would love to sort of inform you guys about what that is. So we have several different pieces of the puzzle of our agency. We've got adult services, we've got youth services, we've got our Tennessee Department of Corrections partnership. That's when I was talking about Bledsoe. And then we have just sort of our outreach, education, all of that. With our adult services, we have an emergency receiving center. So we actually have 5 beds, and those beds are for anyone who is actively fleeing trafficking, or they have like a trafficking victimization. That's there for them. It's obviously not a long-term situation, but we have sort of prided ourselves on the fact that some of these people, they're very transient. They have been without a home just because of their victimization, because of their substance misuse. So they are sort of just used to getting pushed back and forth, but just between service providers and service agencies. So we pride ourselves on, yes, we're temporary, we're not long-term, but we want to, as one of my care coordinators says, find them the glass slipper, basically. We want to make sure that wherever we send them long-term is the best possible option for them. So we do have that. We are open, our shelter's open to any person that identifies as a female. And we also work with men too, so we'll always make sure, if there's that safety concern, then we'll get them a hotel. We'll make sure that they're safe in that situation. So we have that. And that's open to our adults. With kids, there are a lot of service providers in the area that we partner with to make sure that they have housing. We also have a transitional program, it's really great. It's called Phoenix House. And basically, survivors that come into our emergency receiving center, they can apply for this transitional living program where they're having, classes 3 times a week. They're having intensive therapy. They're really diving deep into their trauma. And while they're doing that, they are living in an apartment, and they're independent living, and, they're building all of those skills, all of those life skills, also, working through trauma, working through, doing therapy, and just sort of restarting their life, and rebuilding it for them. Right. So when they get out, they've got a fresh page to start on. We have care coordinators. I have 2 care coordinators, and those 2 care coordinators, like I said, are on the road all the time, working in those 33 counties, but providing case management, anything and everything that they need. That's what sort of sets our nonprofit just in a different way than most, is because we don't put a definition on what every person needs, because every person's different. Mm-hmm. So it could be something as simple as helping get a birth certificate, to helping get housing, or helping get a doctor, just stuff like that. And then we have a adult therapist, and she, provides that therapy for all of our survivors. And then with our youth services, we have another therapist. We have care coordinators. We've got a intervention specialist. So if we have those situations where they haven't disclosed trafficking, but maybe we have had a connection to them through DCS, then we have a specific person that's going to go out and teach them like a high-risk curriculum of sort of, what to look out for. And then if they disclose, then we're going to sort of take them on as our survivors. But if they don't, then at least they've got a very informative curriculum, education. Right. And we have outreach, we have education. We've got a ton of great things that nobody knows about. So I'm always willing to stand on my soapbox and talk about our services.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting here going, how do these people get away from their traffickers? Because, it can't be easy for them to get away from them and then get to you to help. Mm-hmm. So what are some ways they get away? Is it the police find them, or how does that happen?
It can be a multitude of things. Here recently, a lot of our referrals and our partnerships have came from local jails. We work directly with the probation officers, or the people that are talking with these incarcerated survivors on a daily basis. So they're calling us and saying, hey, I think there's somebody that you might need to talk to, and we're going straight in and we're having a conversation with them, and we're saying, okay, when you get out, you've got a place. We're going to make sure that you get services through us. We're going to make sure that you have shelter through us. So a lot of times they're incarcerated, and then they're like, you know what, I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to that life. So then we've given them that option. I will say, and it just is what it is, but that a lot of times when somebody comes in, maybe it's their first time leaving that life, a lot of times they go back, and that's just to be expected. I had one survivor tell me, she's like, you know what, I love you guys, but my head is in the streets, and I'll let you guys know when it's not. I'll call you guys when I'm ready to get out of that life. And that's to be expected. The best that we can do is plant that seed and know that we're going to love them, unconditionally, and whatever they decide to do, we're still going to be there. We're still going to give them a second, third, and fourth chance. We're one of those agencies that, we don't have a lot of rules, and we realize that people make mistakes, especially when they're in these terrible positions and they've had these victimizations, and we're just going to try to give them as much grace as possible.
Right. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. I'm just sitting here, I'm like, this is a wonderful,
I know.
a wonderful program, because, you drive down through downtown Knoxville and you see it on the streets. You see people homeless, you see people who are prostitutes, but you don't stop to think about why are they there? How did they get to this point? Because you're just like, oh, and you just kind of shrug them off. Yeah. But they're still people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest things that I've been running a multidisciplinary team just in Knoxville and the surrounding area, but having those homeless service providers, like Volunteer Ministries and CARM and anyone else who works with a homeless individual, having them at the table to be able to talk to them about how to talk to survivors, because there are situations where you get that gut feeling like something's not right, but it's also too like, do you feel comfortable to even discuss it? And a lot of people don't, and that's understandable. So it's, let me get in front of you, let me show you how to have these conversations, and if all else fails, call us in, and then we can we'll have that discussion, we'll have that tough conversation, as long as it's a safe environment to do so. But they know that we've gotten a lot of our referrals from those services, because they know that we're going to be able to provide them what they need.
And so the adults, obviously, they may start talking on their own. But what are some of the signs that they look for if they're like, I think this person might have been trafficked? What are some, I don't know, I know they're not all typical, but are there any common signs that may just kind of across the board?
I think one thing that and like I had said earlier, just like with the vulnerabilities, where they're sort of they've went off on their own, they've isolated themselves. So I would say that's definitely something to keep an eye on. If someone is in your life and then they just sort of like isolate, they just sort of fall off, or they're getting into things that maybe they've never gotten into before, or they're using language that they haven't before. They are, like, when you're with them, they just, something just feels off, right? We could talk about signs and symptoms all day, and like I said earlier, that doesn't necessarily mean they're being trafficked. But what I would say is, if you feel like if you're paying attention enough to notice something's off, and you're obviously not going to come out and say, hey, have you been trafficked? Because they're not even going to know what that means most of the time. They're absolutely going to say no. But if you can just have an open conversation with them and let them know that you care, and let them know that there are other people in the community that care, I think that's the best step. So, like, parents who are concerned that their child might be trafficked, instead of looking at what's a thing that I can show them online, or a video they can watch, it's more of, why don't you sit down with your child and just have a conversation with them and give them the attention that they might be seeking from someone online, or someone on their phone, or someone out in the community. Give them that attention and try to connect with them as much as possible, and then they won't have that vulnerability to go run and try to get it from somebody else.
Right, and those conversations are not easy sometimes.
No.
I have adult children now, 18 and 20. So, but sometimes you just have to sit down and, are you okay? What's going on in your life? And I think we get so busy and caught up in our own lives, or the lives of what's on our phone, that we neglect that. And I've seen teachers do a great job of recognizing when their student isn't the same person they were the last semester, or even last month. And I think they're doing a really good job of contacting the parents sometimes and being like, your kid is not they're not paying attention in school, or they've withdrawn. And so those are some of the things that we should be paying attention to. And I'm just sitting here listening. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, could you think about all the kids and even adults now who they just don't connect with people. And some of that has to do, I believe, with all of the digital devices that we have.
Yeah.
Because if you go to any restaurant, you go to any kind of store, everybody's always doing this. And it's,
I'm guilty of that. For sure.
I do that too. But they're connecting online because they don't know how to make that connection. Like you and I here having a conversation, and it's kind of a scary place to be. I was telling someone the other day that they needed to watch Social Dilemma on Netflix because it really shows what social media is set up to do. And it's just that, is to keep your attention, and so that you're distracted from everything else. And so when you're distracted, you don't notice what's going on with your family member. Or, I mean, it could even be like, and I hate to say this, but we were talking about the couple up in, I think it was like Virginia, and the father had been trafficking his children to a group of wealthy men. And the mother found out about it, and she took them, and that's the last I heard. Like, it was in the news for a short period of time, but she didn't take her cell phone. She took the license plates off of her car, and she left. And she did it to protect her children. And you wonder how many people are actually having to do that to protect their children.
Yeah. And I really feel like a lot of times when we're talking about protection, I am a huge advocate for just pay attention to them. Like, you know, and I mean, we were talking earlier about, like, you know, we get on TikTok and we sort of whatever. I'm bad about that, you know, and I try to make a note of that every single day. But yeah, I really feel like, you know, just giving them that attention and having conversations and opening up that door so they can.
Right. And I have to say, that's kind of how we bonded with TikTok. And I told you, Alan and I had that conversation last week about TikTok. But you find out some of the most interesting information. And I have seen some of those people who escaped trafficking on there, and the stories that they tell. And I just remember that this guy said, you know, they got pulled over by the police, and the trafficker was literally holding a gun to his head and said, "You take all the blame." And he was like, I had no choice, because I knew at that moment it was either I take the blame or I was going to die right there. And he said that his trafficker didn't care if he killed him right in front of the policeman. And that's a scary place to be.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I mean, they fully exploit, you know, these individuals, and it's much easier to make a lot more profit and revenue off of a human being who you can continually sell hour after hour after hour, versus like drugs or something like that. When you give it, it's gone, and then you have to build it back up again, versus a human who you can just continue to exploit over and over and over again.
That's scary.
I know.
And very sad. And you wonder, like, you know, we come into contact with people daily, and you wonder how many people you come into contact with that are going through this. And maybe they just, like, look sad, or they try to put on a happy face. And so here in East Tennessee, you're mostly seeing prostitution. Is that what you're mostly seeing?
It's that sort of that front of, there's prostitution, or there's a lot of times we're seeing familial with, you know, our younger kiddos and stuff like that.
Right.
But I will say, we have this partnership with Department of Children's Services, where if a teacher suspects something just is off or whatever, they're getting DCS involved. DCS has a human trafficking task force now that they've, you know, assigned people to directly focus on that, which has been great. And then they get to us, and then we are, you know, we're not banging down the doors. We're not the people, you know, we've had people call and say, hey, there's this weird van, you need to come and check it out. That's not us. We're more of the aftercare, you know, and providing, you know, just a safe place after that. But we're going to try to do as much as we possibly can when we have someone sitting in front of us.
So you guys are the healers.
Yes.
And so
absolutely,
you are the ones that are like, I have these resources and I want to help you heal. And how many people have you helped?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. Over the time, over, you know, our long history, I'm not really sure, but I know we've helped a lot.
Right.
And the thing is, we've created those relationships but we have people who have left and they have came back. And I think that is the biggest thing. If we can say anything, we have shown them that love that they keep coming back for.
And if someone wanted to support you guys, is there a way they can support you financially or in other ways?
Yeah, absolutely. GrowFreeTennessee.org will give you all the details. Lots of good stuff on there. And our hotline number too, let me just throw that out there. 865-292-0285. And that's a 24/7 number. So they can call and yeah.
Yeah, because you never know. Maybe somebody's watching right now.
I hope so.
That needs your help. And I have learned so much from you.
Good.
And
I'm glad.
I'm really excited that I met you because it's just been incredible.
Yeah.
So tune in next week, and Alan will be back. But thank you, Brittany, for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Have a nice night. See you soon.